temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves, all the doors do open themselves, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh flies away. Darkness
Welcome, everyone. I'm Devalila, and I live at Ananda Village. I know some of you, or I've met some of you. Just a little bit about myself. I came to Ananda for the first time in January of 1996. I had no idea who Yogananda was or Swami Kriyananda was. It was a friend who had recommended I visit. She just said, I really think you ought to check out Ananda. And I didn't really turn back. I came and I recognized the vibration on some level. It wasn't entirely conscious. It took a while before I moved to Ananda, but I recognized after I left, I just stayed for a weekend at the Expanding Light in Ananda Village, and I remember talking to my sister afterwards, and I said, I think that I found what I've been looking for. I think that I finally found it, because I'd been on a real search for my true spiritual path. And it truly is, I truly did find what I was seeking. And I think all of us can relate to that. I moved to Ananda in 1998, and I've served in the Sangha office since 2000. So for about 24 years, I've been in some form or another in the ministry. And through Treasures Along the Path, I did that for almost 10 years. Online with Ananda, another 10 years, and then I've been with, it's been more like 9 and 9, and then the Kriya Sangha. I don't know if there's a little slight echo, or do other people hear? You can hear, okay. So Lorna introduced me as the Kriyacharya of the world, which is very, sounds very grandiose and big. I am a Kriyacharya, which simply means that I have been honored or blessed with this task or duty, you might say, honor, to share Kriya Yoga through Diksha, through the blessing of Kriya. And the role at Ananda Kriya Sangha that I'm in is director of Ananda Kriya Sangha. North America, South America is the focus, although it is the world because it isn't limited to that. However, Devarshi, Swami Devarshi, he is considered the global director of Ananda Kriya Sangha. And so I kind of focus in the United States. He focuses in India, but he's like the point person. And then in Assisi in Europe, Maya Devi has my role in Europe. But there are other people too. It's not just a single person. So I share Kriya with people all over the world, via online mostly, and also in person. One of the roles that I have is preparing people for Kriya Yoga through our online classes, and then after Kriya Yoga, supporting people in Kriya Yoga. And then I also feel in some ways like I am a secretary. When I was new in the Kriya Sangha, I had this thought that I am master secretary. I'm helping kind of make things happen for people. He's the light, and we're only just instruments for that light. It's Master, it's Swamiji, and I also help the other centers with arranging for Kriya ceremonies and things like that. So in that way, there's some administrative. It's a little bit of both. And so we are going to have a question and answer on Kriya Yoga. And I thought I would start by just sharing a little bit about how we understand Kriya Yoga. It starts with the intellect. We're learning a technique, but it's the art, it's the intuitive understanding that comes over time that helps us develop in Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is not learned once, and it's never really perfected until we're in samadhi. This is how Swami Kriyananda said. He said that we will never be absolutely perfect until we're completely free, because it's beyond any limiting confines of the intellect. It's beyond any one person understanding. You know, it's this universal reality. We're working with energy, and we're working with going beyond the body, using the breath, using a technique to tune in to the Guru, and the Guru guiding us and helping us to work with our karma, work with our attachments, releasing those attachments, but also the veils that prevent us from seeing ourselves as we truly are as a soul. And so Kriya, as you probably know by now, I'm sure that there's a variety. I don't know how long people have had Kriya, but it continues. The refinement, the understanding, it never really can end if we really want to go deep with it. I don't know if there's any questions right off the bat. If not, I have some that were sent in earlier.
I'll start with one.
Okay.
That's our mic while we're at it. Yeah.
Great.
We can record the questions as well. So, test set. Very much so. Just hearing you share a little bit about Kriya, sharing Kriya worldwide, I think sometimes as kriyabans, we can get a little bit insular in our practice in the sense that we know we're part of a greater Kriya Sangha, but it's just the nature of our perspective can shrink a little bit. So it's helpful and inspiring to, I think, read things and hear about and feel connected to the broader world of Masters kriyabans. And your role that you've been sharing a little bit about, I think obviously naturally includes a lot of that. So could you share a little bit about that perspective and also maybe some ways to feel connected to our great big Kriya family?
Great question, thank you. One of the things that, that Badri is alluding to is that limiting view that we can't help but have, if we're alone in our practice. We come to this world with certain karma, and we have certain experiences in our life that color our perspective and our view. And when we expand that with other people and we hear other ways, it helps us understand things in a new way and helps us go deeper. Swami has said that when we practice Kriya Yoga, that when we stay connected with our fellow Guru Bhais, with our fellow kriyabans, we go much deeper than those who just stay on their own apart from everyone else. So both are needed, it's a journey of self-realization. This is, our own individual journey, but also it can become too inward, too focused on ourself. And so when we are relating to other Guru Bhais, we have a broader perspective naturally. So some of the ways that we can do that is our own local Sangha, showing, coming to something like this, joining online Kriya meditations. We offer 2 live ones worldwide a week, one from the village and one from India. The one from the village is Wednesday mornings, and the one from India is Friday evenings. And I'm sure there's others. There are others from Assisi and other locations that you can learn about on the Kriya Support website. Europe has them. I believe Australia has some. There's different ways that you can meditate with other Guru Bhais. talking about kriya is important, not just assuming that you understand it. There's a caveat with that too, is who you talk with and who you're listening to, because we can sometimes get wrong information. I mean, I've had people tell me things that they heard, and I'm like, where'd you hear that? We were having a conversation, and it wasn't quite right. You always want to refer back to Master and to Swamiji, because these teachings are subtle. We want to share with each other, but also be careful what we share too, and in that we want to keep sacred the Kriya practice. I was rereading the question and answer booklet on Kriya Yoga before I came. I try and read it at least once a year. It's incredible. There's so many layers to Kriya. And there was one thing that struck, or I heard it anew. I actually never heard it this way, I don't think. Someone was asking Swami Kriyananda, why not give, why do we have to keep Kriya secret? Why can't we just share it? And he said, well, first, there's the reason of needing to prepare for Kriya Yoga and being ready for Kriya Yoga, and discipleship being core to it. But even a more important reason is to keep it strong in ourself, so that we're not dissipating it. So when you share things, spiritual experiences, for instance, you're having to bring it down to this plane to do that, and sometimes you can lose it that way. So when we talk about sharing Kriya Yoga, we're not talking about those things that will do that, but talking about it in our enthusiasm, or in what we're guided to share, tuning into the heart. Is there a nervousness, or is there a prompting yes to share this? So satsang, continuing to renew your vows, doing that once a year at least. These are important ways. There are lots of online resources. Tuning into Jyotish and Devi. Jyotish gave a Kriya ceremony at SRW that was profound. Just so many deep insights, and that recording's available now on the Kriya Support website. So I think that's probably enough food for thought. Any other questions from here? Or should I read one of these? Okay. There are some questions here about the higher kriyas, so I'll start with those. I'll just take this in order. Are the higher kriyas important? Sorry about that. It's all of, yes. Absolutely. One day we won't need them. We'll be able to do something different. So yes, our higher kriya is important. So you could say that they are, because they are part of our path. It's hard to answer that in too general of a way, because it depends on what aspect one is asking that question. It is something, what is important is to keep going deeper, is to keep refining, to keep reaching, and to not feel like this is as far as I can go, to never feel that way. That wherever we are, there's always another level of depth. We may be at a place that we're kind of, staying for a little while and gradually moving. But then there's a time when it's time to go deeper. I remember having an experience with the spiritual eye where I have never been somebody who really had experiences like that with visions or sounds. So I remember hearing, well, it's okay, don't worry about that, just keep practicing. And so in my mind, I thought, okay, well, since it doesn't matter, I won't try. I just kind of put it to the back of my mind. And it was like years later where I realized I had stopped even trying. Because I thought, well, it's okay if I don't see it, so therefore I won't go deeper with that. And it was a real wake-up call to realize that there are lots of things that because we haven't experienced them yet, or because we don't think we're quite there yet, or whatever, that we just put aside, but then we stop seeking that. So you have to find the balance in these things. So are higher kriyas important? They are. They are important in that respect, that we want to keep moving in that direction and not limit ourselves to where we think that's all there is for us. Because we all have that potential of complete liberation. In fact, that's what this path is about. Liberation, whether we achieve that in this life or some future life, that goal doesn't have to be diminished from us. And the higher kriyas, they are very beneficial in taking us deeper in our first kriya even. So, let's see. Any questions from that? Okay. Yes.
So my experience with the higher kriyas and just kind of the whole kriya path was in my mind, which was this was a mistaken thought. Well, I gotta have the higher kriyas. I've got to learn whatever I can. And what I found is that they are helpful to me. This is my own personal thing, so I'm not saying it's right. It's just my opinion. But one thing that I find helpful for myself is at the times when I feel like I've gone as far as I can with in my meditation with one kriya, I have the opportunity to go to another aspect of that kriya and try to take that deeper. And I don't know, I think just masters kind of set that up for people like me that like to have some variety and be able to work with that variety, and at the same time go as deep as I can in whatever the practice is, whether it be Hang Sa or the fourth kriya, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. One point that I heard in the beginning is feeling you should. Sometimes that's a feeling that people have. I should because everybody else is, and so we, that can be useful, it can be helpful, and a prod, to help us. Sometimes the way that we end up receiving kriya may not be the perfect method. Maybe it's because we want to just make sure that we're doing what we think we're supposed to be doing. But if it ends there, that's when the problem is. You want to receive these higher kriya. If we were to take higher kriyas, ultimately, this is for our freedom, for taking us deeper within. In many ways, the higher kriyas are refinement to the first kriya, elements to the first kriya. So when we say higher kriya, it also puts a certain, it's like stepping stone. Like we have to be at a certain level and then we step up and step up. But more, another way to think of that is to step more in, instead of stepping up. In the world, we think of hierarchies, but in the yogic realm, we're letting go, we're releasing all of that. We're going more deeply within. And the higher kriyas are deeper kriyas, deeper elements to certain aspects of kriya. Okay. Let's see here. Are there practices or parts of the practice that prepare us for higher kriya? There are, and one of them is Om at the chakras. When you're doing kriya, the kriya breath. This is an important aspect of kriya. In fact, it is the complete kriya. It is the way that kriya is fully done, by chanting Om at the chakras. Master gave it to us in such a way that he said to have the basics down, with the kriya breath, with the length of the breath, the cool and the warm, the ah and the e sound, all of those things, that you have that, well established, and then you're adding Om at the chakras, when a person first learns. But sometimes that can, again, be like that experience with the spiritual eye where it wasn't happening, so therefore I kind of stopped trying for it. And so with Om at the chakras, it can be that experience where it's complicating your practice and kind of too hard to balance all these different parts. So then you just never add it. So that would be something, if that is the case for anyone, is to be focusing on Om at the chakras. The higher kriyas are helping us withdraw our energy more deeply in the chakras. They're helping us magnetize that energy and direct that energy upward to the higher chakras. So that Om at the chakras is like an important preliminary practice. Another is the Om technique, listening, absorbing. And this is another practice that can sometimes fall away, especially when we learn kriya and then we've got all these techniques. We've got energization, hong sa, kriya, sitting in the silence. When do we fit it all in? And it's important, Om is one of the 4 cornerstones of the path of Kriya Yoga. Master said that energization, hong sa, Om, and Kriya, they all work together. And they all have a unique part in our journey, in our liberation, in training our energy and attuning our energy. And the Om technique, it is the Divine Mother aspect. It's absorbing ourselves in that oneness. So doing the Om technique, having a strong practice of it at least 4 times a week. It doesn't have to be every single meditation, but you want to be doing that. So these are a couple of ways that you would be preparing for the higher kriyas, along with your first kriya. So sometimes people, this is another aspect of higher kriyas, that people are struggling maybe with certain elements of first kriya, and they may not view it this way, but they think if they get second kriya, then things will come together. And the thing is that with first kriya, sometimes the way to go deeper is to go deeper in our first kriya, to make sure that we're established in our first kriya. We don't have to be perfect in first kriya, otherwise we would never move forward. We would never get there. But we want to be doing regularly 108 kriyas, to have a longer practice periodically, to have that Om at the chakra practice, to have a sense of the energy in the spine. These are aspects that you want to be already experiencing in readiness for higher kriya. And if they're not there, that's okay. It's all directional, and there's no limit to how deep we can go with any of the aspects of Kriya Yoga. And it's not always linear either. I'll just share a little bit of something that happened for me. I had been doing Kriya for many, many years, and I thought there was a karma that I had been really working on all of my life, even before I got Kriya. We have these certain things that we come into this life with that we know we have to work on. And I remember thinking that Kriya Yoga will do it. And after a certain number of years, like almost 18 years, I'm still working on this karma. And I remember it was a crossroads for me, because I had a time of discouragement where I was wondering, is it working? Is Kriya Yoga working? Here I am, I'm still finding myself, falling down again and again. And luckily I had an opportunity to go into seclusion, and I did a lot of introspection about this. And just after time, by the grace of the gurus, I had this insight that I had been waiting for Kriya to change me, instead of being more active and doing that outer part too. It's not just in meditation that we change, it's also in the way we live. So it's both. It's both. And I saw what that was, and things changed after that. So this is after 18 years, I remember thinking, I needed to just go back to basics and just start again with everything. And part of me was, even though it was all in my own mind, part of me was like, how can I be starting again? I've been doing it for 18 years, because you think you're supposed to be going up, and you are, but it's so gradual that you don't necessarily see it. But by starting over, I was able to go deeper, and then things changed quite rapidly. And it's like, so there's no point in the journey where you can't, it's like we stop ourselves, we think we should be at a certain place. I hope I'm explaining this in the right way that's coming across. But you think that you should be at a certain point because of the length of time. But maybe it's so different. The yoga, the way that yoga works, the way that the divine works, is not the way the human time frame works. We don't know what our karma is. We don't know what is being released. Sometimes it's like the nail in the board. It's slowly, slowly, slowly moving out. You're still pulling on it, and you're like, I'm still pulling on it, but there's only a little bit left, and you don't realize that. And if you stop pulling, it'll still be stuck. So you have to keep going, and that's part of this understanding Kriya. That is not just in the mind, it's in the experience, it's in the continual growth, continual openness to the guru, because ultimately that is what changes us, is that connection, that consciousness. Okay. Let's see. Anybody have a question? You can always interrupt me if. What if I never want to get higher kriyas? Well, I like the word yet, not yet. Because then you're not shutting the door. Things change. There's no pressure. But maybe for now, it's okay. but not yet. And that way at least you're keeping open. Okay. Anybody else? No. Okay. What if I don't practice Kriya for a while? What is the best way to pick it up again? It depends on how long. I had one person who received Kriya Yoga some years ago. I don't know, I think it was 4 years ago. And she had some serious health problems immediately following that, and was kind of afraid to do Kriya because of her heart and different things. And recently she made the connection with me to how to start, and so we talked about what she had been doing. And she had been doing Hong Sa this whole time. She had been doing Om the whole time. She had been doing energization. So in that case, it was just really a matter of just starting. So if, just beginning again with 14 Kriyas, morning and night, and just, it's like, how do I start again? Just start. Start gradually sometimes. You don't have to adapt everything all at once. You can just gradually do it, even if it's once a day in the beginning. Ideally, it's twice a day, but the way that we think sometimes, we think if I'm not perfect, then I won't do it at all. And it's better to do something than to do nothing. If a person hasn't been doing anything for a long stretch, it might be good to have a period of time where you're building for a while and then begin. It kind of depends on the situation. So what is the best way to begin? It depends on how long has it been, because we're working with subtle energy, and it might be good to have a little bit of a renewal. I have another situation with someone who needed to start over and go back into preparation for Kriya Yoga, even though they received Kriya many years ago. In fact, it was a really beautiful story. It was a man who, he said that when he first learned Kriya Yoga, it was many years ago, he said he wasn't ready for Kriya Yoga. He thought he was ready, but he wasn't ready at all. And over time, life happened, all kinds of things happened in his life where he became ready, where he finally was really ready to commit himself to it. But in listening to his story, I realized nobody is really ready for Kriya Yoga. I don't know that any single one of us is fully 100% ready, including myself when I first learned Kriya Yoga. We want this deeper relationship with God. We want this deeper connection, but it's something that we grow into over time, and Kriya Yoga helps make us ready. He was kind of a different example, but even if we've practiced Kriya this whole time, we're growing into that readiness, and we're able to absorb more and more of what Kriya is and what the potential of Kriya Yoga. So, yeah. Let's see, if I want to increase my meditation time, do I just focus on doing more Kriya, or should I do all the practices for longer? You want Kriya as the primary it is the highest technique that you have. So you want to have dedicated time for that. And just to say, the silence is one of the most important times of Kriya Yoga, is that time after Kriya Yoga. So that, if you're looking at elongating your practice, if you're only doing, a small number of Kriyas, yes, increasing your Kriya practice would be good. If your Kriya is restless, increasing your Hong Sa would be good. So it's kind of, what's going on, and it would be different maybe at different meditations. Maybe one meditation right away you're there and you're ready to do Kriya, so you do more Kriya with depth. And then you sit longer, trying to elongate that silent period is very, very important. This is when we develop intuition, the soul's way of knowing God. And this is how we attune to Master, is through our intuition. So sitting in the silence is a way of elongating our meditation. Doing Kriya more slowly. When we learn Kriya Yoga, we do it from a count of 10 to 15 is what Swami tells us to do. 10 to 15 on the inhalation, pause 3 to 5, 10 to 15 on the exhalation. Doing that more, a longer breath, not getting out of breath, but trying to relax more deeply so it's slower and deeper. Trying to go beyond the breath. The breath is a vehicle for the energy. Doing different things to be more present in your Kriya practice and to be more withdrawn. This is something that Jyotish has been focusing on in all the talks that I've heard him talk on Kriya Yoga in recent years. And he said it, of course, before, but it seems to me, at least this is what I hear most predominantly, is this withdrawal. Withdrawing from outer involvement, returning to your deep inner spine. So these are ways that you lengthen. Master gave us deeper, longer, guru-given meditation. Deeper, longer. Longer is a result of deeper. But also 5 more minutes. Devi gave us that assignment once, if you want to call it an assignment. She said, do 5 more minutes than you think you can do. And that's an easy practice that all of us can do. 5 more minutes. You're ready to get up. I'll give it 5 more minutes. Just be in total surrender, 5 minutes. And then get up. Yeah, okay.
This isn't actually a question, but we all count differently. Mm-hmm. I've realized that. One of the ways I realized it was when we'd be practicing and someone would say, we'll do 14 Kriyas together. And I was on number 9 or 10 when everybody else was finished. And there's probably, ones who do it more at length than I do. And so, I don't know what question there is do we just count what is natural for us for, a full inhalation and exhalation rather than it's got to be 15 counts?
Right. That's a good question. Thank you. The typical count is a half a second. So 10 would be about 5 seconds. And that's like average. So there isn't a rule around this. You can do a little slower, you can do a little faster. You want to do Kriya at the Kriya breath where there's control. You're not getting out of breath, you're relaxed. On that exhalation, you're not gasping for breath, needing another breath, you're not yawning. In the beginning, you may have some of these things where you get out of breath or you yawn or whatever. But these are things that you want to work with. You want to get to the place where it's just the inhalation, pause, exhalation in a relaxed way. And sometimes you need to, I've had this experience where for whatever reason, I just kept feeling tense in my Kriya practice and I couldn't get the full breath. And I didn't, so at a certain point, what I decided to do is to stop, relax, and resume. So, do what you need to do to get to that place where you can be relaxed. Inhale and exhale. So that count is like that. Now, when you do Kriya Yoga, in the beginning, the first 3 or 4 Kriyas, you can count. It's helpful. This is something that, sometimes we get into bad habits and our inhalation or our exhalation is a little longer and we don't even realize it. We're just, doing Kriya. So just to kind of continually refine and go back to basics is just to count. You can count with your fingers, you can count in your mind, not worrying about anything else, but just getting that even count. There will be always someone who's breathing faster and someone who's breathing slower. When we do a group practice and we say, let's do 12 together, now let's do 12 more, and you're still on, 10 or something, or someone else is done. That's okay, don't worry about that. We're always going to be a little different that way. Okay.
Laura, do you have a question? Yeah.
So Kriya's been challenging for me. I'm very restless. The Kriya breath has been challenging for me. In fact, I'm going to talk to you about that when we have our appointment. And I'm very drawn to the group meditations at the temple. At the chapel, at the community. And what keeps me from going there is, first of all, my restlessness, and I don't want to disturb other people, but also my breathing. I think I finally have the Kriya breath down, but I do it fairly loudly by myself. And I find when I'm in a group and I do it, I don't take the full breath. It's muted because I'm trying to keep the noise down. So I struggle with that, and I don't know if I've said enough about it for you to get an idea of what I'm talking about.
Yes, thank you. That's helpful. Everything the way you described it, and not entirely unusual either. There's a lot of people who it takes a while to really feel the Kriya breath, to relax into it. And I'll start with the restlessness. The restlessness is something that we all have to varying degrees and at varying times. There's some times where sitting to meditate just feels like torture. You're just, it's not happening, and in those situations, sometimes it's good to go for a walk, to do something physical until you can calm down. It depends on what is going on. And sometimes it's, it's karmic stuff coming up. It's a variety of things, in other words. It's not any one thing, and at different times a different solution is needed. In general, one of the things that can be very beneficial is doing a lot of measured breathing, spending more time with that. Swami Pranaba shared in a talk a while back. I don't know if it was at the Kriyaban retreat. I think it may have been. And he was talking about how he will spend sometimes 10 or 15 minutes doing measured breathing until he feels that calmness. And I think for a lot of people that were hearing him say that, it's like it gave people permission, like, oh yeah, because sometimes we forget about these things, and we also, it's like Hong Sa, it's something we learn in the very beginning, so therefore we sometimes think of it as a beginner thing, and measured breathing falls in that category, when it's not. It's a technique, it's a pranayama, it's one of our tools. So measured breathing for a long period of time until you feel that calmness might be helpful. Visualization, like we are operating through the chakras, through our ego in the world. It's all going out. Our energy is going out in our interpersonal relationships, in our work, in our, our life duties. And in meditation, we're reversing that. And the more that we can be aware of that inner reality in our daily life, the easier it will be to reverse that. If we're so out there and kind of busy or, active, but not aware of our inner life, it's a lot harder. It's a lot further to go, like a big long journey, the long walk, as someone described it once. And, so living more in our spine all the time, and also these things can be described as a habit. Swami Kriyananda, in the last Kriya newsletter I write, or we send out these Kriya newsletters every month, and this September. If you don't get that, actually, even if you don't get the newsletter, it's on the Kriya Support website. I posted a letter that Swami wrote to a devotee about restlessness. And he said that it can be a habit, that restlessness is a habit. And that's an interesting way of looking at it. We don't think of it that way. So what is another habit? What's the opposite habit that we can use to counteract that? And often that is the best approach in changing habits, is doing the opposite, especially when it's something like restlessness, which isn't like eating candy or I don't know, it's kind of, you don't grab your hands on that, So how do you do the opposite is to practice calmness more frequently. Imagine your mind is a lake, and that lake is perfectly still like a mirror, visualizations like that. And in meditation, visually reversing the sight, the smell, the taste, the feeling, visually reversing all of that inward to the inner sight, the inner sound, the inner feeling. So I think relaxation is the key to correct Kriya breathing too. And that, it's not in the vocal cords, it's not in the, relaxing the muscles. Diaphragmatic breathing, so yoga helps with that. Hatha yoga. I've been doing more, we all go in and out of this, but I've recently started doing yoga again after not doing it for a while. And it really, I'm like, why do I stop doing these things? It's time or whatever, but it really helps. Yeah.
I have another question, but I just also wanted to make a comment or two based on what George said. That's okay. Oh, thank you. I was just saying I have another question, but just partly in response to what Lori shared, as someone who is at those meditations most mornings at the chapel with just a few other kriyabans, and I don't speak for all kriyabans, although I think I probably speak for many or most, when I say that, a couple of things. One, I think it's a wonderful sound, the sound of kriya breathing. If it bothers me, I can bring headphones or put on headphones. It doesn't usually bother me. But I would sooner have like Darth Vader on my left and, an emphysema patient on my right, provided that they're kriyabans or they're kriyabans in training. meditating with me, really, than not. I mean, to me, it's such a incredible opportunity to come together as kriyabans and practice the sacred kriya, like we were saying at the outset, to go deep in that together. And again, the noise may be bothersome to others more than me or some, but the point being that, to me, that pales in comparison to the blessing to practice the techniques together. Just the same as I've encouraged people who need to come and go, including myself sometimes, early, come late to the practice or leave early. My kids are getting ready for school in the morning or whatever. Let's not make that an excuse not to come. If I can only come for half an hour and practice 24 kriyas with other kriyabans, to me, that's always, I'm lucky to live in the community, better than sitting in my own altar, which I often will sit at, but to come and practice with other kriyabans, and to encourage others. I don't mind the door opening or closing quietly, whatever minor disturbance that may or may not be. Again, compared with the blessing to practice together. So just for that little bit of encouragement for us all. And then my other question, just to bring it back to the higher kriyas and really to the first kriya, Devalila's been sharing, we've been talking about the higher kriyas and some of the other practices. What I was thinking of Lahiri's disciple, the story and autobiography of a yogi, I think his name is Brinda, who's the postman, and he said, "Do you want the higher kriyas?" "No, master, I'm in ecstasy all the time and I can't deliver my letters." But not to take away from the higher kriyas, which I would really encourage everyone to pursue and practice, or talk with kriyabans or ministers about, but to bring back the emphasis to the first kriya as, I hesitate to say the highest technique, but in a way, yes. Again, not to take away from the essential importance of energization, Om, all of the techniques, Hong Sa, higher kriyas, but the first kriya as sort of the pinnacle technique, and how to prioritize that. I will practice this twice daily, and continuing to take that deeper as sort of the technique, par excellence.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, kriya, the first kriya contains everything that we need for liberation. And sometimes we think more is better, and that's just, that's that human way of thinking of things, because outwardly, sometimes, well, actually even outwardly, that's not even really true, but our mind says more is better. Really, it's deeper is better, deeper is better. And that commitment to practice twice a day, it opens us to the Guru. Master said that it's through the techniques that I can help you. There was a devotee at Mount Washington who struggled with meditation, struggled with doing the practices, and this is a story that Swami Kriyananda related. And Master would say, do the practices, do your kriya. It's through the techniques that I can help you. And I just love that that thought, that it's through the techniques that we open ourselves to cooperate with grace. It's not just a breathing technique. It is a breathing technique in the beginning. It's a breathing technique. But really it's a doorway. To see kriya as a doorway to the Guru, a doorway to our own higher self. And this technique is so deeply sacred and profound that there's no limit really to how deep we can go with it. So to find something, this is what I have found very beneficial in the last number of years, is that I'm always on the lookout for that one thing that speaks to my heart that I take into Kriya Yoga. And it's different, it changes every so often. Sometimes every couple of weeks it'll be a different thing. But I'm always on that lookout, reading Master's words at least once a day. reading Swamiji's words, at least something, Living Wisely, Living Well. It's an incredible book. It's got all the guidelines for having a balanced life and a spiritual life. But just reading one thing, trying to find something that sparks the inspiration in your heart. Because when we're too duty bound, and we should and we have to, I have to do my kriyas, I need to add my kriyas to my life, kind of, my life has got, when the mindset is my life has got the priority, and Kriya Yoga is getting fit into that. It's kind of, it's not giving it the value, and it doesn't last usually that way very well. But if Kriya is central to our life, and our life is built around Kriya Yoga, it's very different. That we don't leave our house without practicing Kriya Yoga, without making that inner connection with the Guru, because that is our doorway, that's our guide. When we take discipleship, we take that vow, and we have that promise that the Guru will lead us to liberation, no matter how long it takes. Even if it's 20 million lifetimes, he's still going to be he's with us. But when we take Kriya Yoga, it's like another level of discipleship. It's like it's like now we're going to also be doing our part actively through Kriya Yoga, and he's working with us through our discipleship, through our actions. And we don't have to be perfect at this. Sometimes just showing up is the most important thing. Even if, we didn't have, we have a short amount of time, but we do it, we stick to it. And our life will change in those ways. In the morning, I like to think of it that the first meditation in the morning is I'm offering this day to Master. I'm offering everything. I'm trying to tune in to his consciousness, to what's needed, to what needs to happen for me, for others in my life, in my service. And at the end of the day, I'm offering it all back. Now there's, now I'm just, whether I failed, whether I succeeded, whatever happened, giving it all back, just entering into that deeper reality. And it's this thread that weaves through your life, morning and night, morning and night, morning and night. And the daytime is just simply, where you're practicing the presence of God, where you're trying to apply those teachings. And morning and night, you're tapping into that ocean of spirit. So there's just so many different ways to approach it. But by approaching it, that Kriya is the first thing. It's central to your life, and everything else is secondary to that. That changes things, just that. So yes. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just put a plug in for measured breathing.
Yeah.
I have found that I won't let myself go further in my meditation unless I can do measured breathing at a certain rate. Because I'll sit down, and sometimes if I'm really restless, I can't count farther than 4 or 5. And I say, okay, then you got to work on this, Lorna, for a while until you get to where you can do 12 to 20 in your measured breath. Otherwise, this is not going to even be worth it. So I have found it's my own barometer for whether I'm even ready to go into Kriya at all, to use a measured breath. It's a wonderful technique.
Thank you. That's a good point about the count that you just made. Because sometimes, too, if we're really restless, 4 is what you can do. Doing 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, it will work. It's amazing. I remember having an experience where I was just extremely anxious. It was I don't particularly like talking in front of people, and this was when I was younger, and it was really bad. And I just started, I felt like I was gonna like collapse and fall out of my chair, because I knew I was gonna have to talk. We were going around in a circle it was at the Sangha office actually. And I just looked at the clock, and I just started breathing 4, 4, 4. And I was so calm by the time they got to me. I was like completely, there was absolutely zero anxiety, and I'll never forget that experience. It was like, this works, Kriya works, it all works. Sometimes we think maybe it's not working, when like I was describing, but it does work. It works on different levels, and sometimes we have to adjust what we're doing. Sometimes we're not looking through the proper lens either. I've had, in working with lots of different people over the years, sometimes I'll have people tell me that a man, this was again just a little while ago, he said that, it doesn't really work for me to do it like that, so I just do these other things, and I add this and that. Different techniques altogether, and I realized, with that particular person, that it shuts it off from the guru, and so for him, that's where he wanted to be. But what I realized too is that for us, when we really want the help of the guru, by following the way that the guru teaches, we're trusting the guru, and Anandi, Nayaswami Anandi was talking about Hong Sa, and she was saying that this finger movement, she used to, and like lots of people, we have this finger movement when we inhale and we exhale, and Master said to know when you're inhaling and exhaling. And we may think, I know when I'm inhaling, I know when I'm exhaling, I really don't need to move my finger, so I don't move my finger. And she was describing this process that most of us have. And she, for herself, had this awakening, this realization that, why am I telling the guru what I need to do or don't do? The guru is an avatar. And so she started doing it again, and it changed her practice completely. And then she remembered this story that, I know we're talking about Kriya, but I'll just finish this, that there was a devotee who came, he was a very deep disciple of Master, and he came to Ananda, and Swami Kriyananda was giving a class on Hong Sa, and he was talking about this slight finger movement and said that Master taught to do Hong Sa in this way. And the man afterwards, he went up to Swami and he said, that is so fascinating. I never ever heard that before, that you move the finger. He said, but when I go deep in Hong Sa, my finger moves. So sometimes there are these things that we are taught, in Kriya Yoga, or in Hong Sa, or in Om, or in the energization exercises, the order of things, what we're doing, and we don't know why. And so we think, I don't know if I need that part. Mahamudra, for instance, Jyoti Mudra, you don't know why, and so you just go to the Kriya, but all of them have their place, there's a purpose. And so to not take any of the techniques for granted either, that we don't have to be kind of rigid with ourselves either. When people get too focused on technique, they can miss the grace, the love, the devotion, which is central to it, really. But doing the techniques in the best way you can, in the best way that you can. So, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions? Yes.
I'm too a big proponent of breathing. I get anxiety attacks fairly frequently. And I noticed that one of the things I started to do was just try to do some kriya breaths, even when I'm driving, obviously not with my eyes closed or anything, but it's been amazing to me how effective that has been to just calm my central nervous system. And I don't know if that's like okay to do, but I think it's along the lines of, well, this is what works for me.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to ask about was keeping track of how much time is being spent after doing the technique. If I don't have an alarm set to 15 or 16 minutes, I will very rarely naturally want to sit still for that long. And so I have to use a mechanical means to make sure, and rather than checking the clock all the time. And I've been told that can be kind of a regimented type of way of doing things, but at the same time it's a discipline for me, so that I'm beginning over time to more naturally know how much that time is. Is that an appropriate kind of tool? I don't know how other people even do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And like you said, what is happening for you, what you're noticing is that you're naturally becoming aware of that over time. So maybe there will be a time when you don't need the timer, but it's fine. I have a clock, like a big clock like that in our meditation room, and sometimes I'll glance at it. I tend to have a feel, but sometimes I don't, and I'll just glance at the clock and I'll just go deeper. The advice of sitting for 15 minutes after doing Kriya Yoga is very, very important. 15 is the minimum, so it doesn't mean that you have to only sit 15 minutes. Longer is even better, but 15 minutes, it allows for the Kriya the divine light, to absorb all of that, the vrittis that have been stirred up. We'll be having a Kriya ceremony tonight, so I don't need to go into all of these things of technique, but it's if anyone here has ever done this, and most of us have, I know I have, gotten up quickly after doing Kriya because you were in a rush, there's often this sense of being off throughout the day, like a disturbance in the field kind of feeling. And that's what that is. You've been working with all this energy, and you want to allow for that to settle and be. And anyway, those are good questions. Kriya Yoga has a very deeply calming effect. So, we talked about measured breathing, and also there's another spectrum here. It's like we say, don't eat when you're full, after 3 hours after eating. But if it's late at night and you had a big meal and there's no other option, and what are you going to do? Stay up till 2 in the morning and then do Kriya? It's better to do Kriya on a full stomach than to not do it at all, even though it's not really perfect. Well, a similar thing with being not quite calm, we can do measured breathing and try and calm, but if there's still a little bit, Kriya itself will help us. It does. It helps to calm us down. So, yeah. There is another question here that's, I can't seem to do Kriya quietly. What am I doing wrong? This is, progressive thing, and really it does come down to relaxation, so I'm going to use the word gently, doing Kriya gently. And he also said that we don't want to be like a hurricane more like a zephyr wind. And it is okay if there's some volume. I mean, I really enjoyed what Badri said, because I feel the same way when I'm sitting in a room and there's people doing kriya and they're kind of a little louder or whatever. I feel I'm just, we're here doing kriya together. We're doing kriya together. It's like no one's measuring people. We measure ourselves. The fact that we're together, that's the important thing. And just, working on relaxing with that. And it's something that can be individually. When we can talk about that too individually. I can't seem to do Mahamudra the right way. Does that matter? This is sitting on the heel, stretching, grabbing the big toe. A lot of people can't do that. Knees, hips, arthritis, back problems. Sitting in a chair doing Mahamudra, very, very modified, can still have a powerful effect. I personally do sit on the floor and do Mahamudra, so I'm very familiar with what it feels like in Mahamudra. And I had a instance where my back went out and I had such extreme back pain I could barely even walk for a while. And I tried Mahamudra, I did the modified version during that time, and I felt the same benefit. So I can attest to the fact that a very, very modified version still has the effect. To not try it, don't not do it, because you can't sit on your heel. So when you're sitting, we can go over this maybe in the review or another time, but when you're sitting in the chair, you can energetically press down as though you're creating a lock, and then you just bend as far as you can, just stretching the whole spine. That's the whole, if nothing else, focusing on opening the spine in Mahamudra. Keeping the fingers interlaced is another thing, and everyone can do that. Keeping the fingers interlaced, stretching the whole spine. Okay. This is the last question here, and maybe there'll be another one in the audience. I've never done 108 kriyas. Is it really important to do that many? Well, it's not about the numbers, doing a bunch of numbers, as it is about the depth. But Swami did say for the devotee who's really, part of a sangha, living in community, really wanting to, deepen their spiritual life, to at least work toward 108. Even if you only do it once a week. So it is a good practice even to build up to do 108 twice a day. Would be an aim. Once a day is what a lot of people do, and then they do a shorter one in the evening. I was at a talk one time, this was years ago when I was new at Ananda, and Naya Swami Jaya was giving the Spiritual Renewal Week talk at the amphitheater in the village. And he was talking about this, and up till then I had only been doing 24 or 36 kriyas, and just kind of in a comfort zone with that. That felt good. I never, it's like you get into comfort zones and then you just stay there. Just the fact that you're doing kriya at all, just the fact that you're meditating at all sometimes feels like enough, But in this talk he said, Swami recommended to do 108 kriyas, and I decided one day to try an experiment, and do 108 kriyas twice a day for a month, And the way that he was just playful about it, it's an experiment. What would happen? What would happen? And it was somehow it felt like this invitation. What would happen if I did more? What would happen if I went deeper? How would, would my connection with Master change? So just always open, always exploring, not ever well, this is what I do, this is my routine. What would happen if I grew out of so I do recommend doing 108 kriyas, even if you just do it periodically at the group meditation. It's a longer meditation perhaps from your normal one. It takes, if you're doing kriya, and I don't know if I mentioned this, we were talking about the count, it takes about 45 minutes to do 45 minutes to an hour to do 108 kriyas, if you're doing that at a normal pace. So that kind of gives you a picture. If you are doing it in a half an hour, you might want to do a little slower breath. So you want it to be about 45 minutes or more, but not too long. I mean, I know some people will do really, really long kriya breaths, but they're losing magnetism. They're losing the momentum and the magnetism in that. So you have to find the balance where you're really dynamic, going deep, but also, going forward. Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions before we wrap up? Oh, yes.
Hi.
What's that?
Use the mic.
I don't know how much of a question really is, but there's a phrase that has stuck in my mind for a long time that I just don't quite know what to do with, and maybe you could help me move forward on this. And that's the idea of relaxing upward, relax upward.
Okay.
And I put that in there and roll it around and not quite sure what to do with it. I wonder if you could expand that a little bit.
Yeah, I really love that idea of relaxing upward because it's dynamic. It's like relaxing downward is subconscious, sleep. Going down. Relaxing upward is awake. It's like this inhalation, we inhale, we're lifting the energy up. And when we exhale, we're withdrawing more deeply. We're not dropping the energy. We're still upward and we're still relaxed. We're not more tense or anything. This relaxing upward is a sense of the superconscious, like we're conscious, we're active, yet we're relaxed. We're not tense. There's no tension, but our energy is relaxed upward. And there, Gyandev, Swami Gyandev, he teaches pranayam, advanced pranayam, and he talks about when you exhale to feel that you're exhaling upward. He said that once, and I thought wow, that's interesting. So that's kind of like relaxing upward. Yeah.
Sort of like one of those coins.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Shall we end on that note, an upward note?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so much.
everyone.
Those of you probably all know our evening starts at 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's 4 to 5 o'clock is the meditation. 5 o'clock the doors will lock and the actual initiation begins at 5 o'clock. So please be back here by then if you can. And I don't know what else to say. Tomorrow after, so we'll have the initiation tonight. In the morning at 8 o'clock will be our reviews. So I've told her that I think there are a few people who have second kriya already and would like a review of their second kriya. So Devalila is prepared to do a second kriya review in the morning, even though we're not doing an initiation into second kriya. But this is an opportunity to maybe get some questions answered or do a review of second. Then there will also be a review of the first kriya with Surrender and Gaudry in a separate room at that time as well. We will have 3 new initiates tonight, so they will be there, and then
everybody else is welcome to come to that. Again, it's an opportunity for a few more questions, for a little more fine tuning, for what about this way I'm doing Maha Mudra, is that okay, anything like that. So that's at 8 o'clock, and then of course we'll have our fire ceremony and all at 9:30 as usual tomorrow. So any questions about that? No? All right, thank you so much for coming. I will let everybody know about this recording, and we'll send out a link to our kriyabans so that if you came in late and missed some of it, and other people will want to have access to this. So we'll make that available.
We close with prayer.
Yes, indeed, that's a great idea.
Just feel our mutual gratitude to have Devalila Vishnu with us, and for all of us, these unparalleled blessings of Kriya Yoga. Guru's grace comes through the techniques and our devotional practices together. Our oneness in the light of Kriya and our Master. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Vihir Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, beloved Guru Paramahansa Yogananda, all saints, and guide Swami Kriyananda.
we bow to you all.
Bow to you all.
Love and gratitude.
Love and gratitude.
For these sacred gifts.
These sacred gifts.
Bless our practices.
Bless our practices.
Ever deeper devotion.
Ever deeper devotion.
And attunement.
And attunement.
To thy ray.
To thy ray.
We are forever thine.
We are forever thine.
Be thou with us.
Be thou with us. Om. Peace.